Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good. Because after all, that's what we want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Today on the show, we'll be visiting with Pam Jenkins. I had the privilege of meeting Pam several months ago because I signed up for a dog training course, and Pam happened to be the instructor. And I'm so glad she was because she's excellent at it, and both my dog and I have learned a ton from her. As you know, when I meet people that inspire me, I like to introduce them to you. So stick around and join the conversation. If you have a dog and if you've ever considered an obedience class or an agility class, then I encourage you to stay tuned. These classes can be a real game changer for you and your best friend. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you have questions you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email those directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. And you can also visit me at my website, www.fletcherellingson.com. I've got all sorts of free resources there to help you figure things out, because you don't have to figure it out all on your own. There are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. Now, at this point in the show, I usually take time to answer an email or a question and offer some coaching. But today, I want to skip that because I really want to give some extra time to this important conversation with Pam. So we're going to take a short commercial break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here. So glad that you are in this conversation. As you know, I think the personal development conversation is one of the most important. So welcome and glad you're here. Today we're talking with Pam Jenkins. Pam, nice to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. Today we're talking about something I know you're very passionate about, dogs and dog handling and relationships with dogs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So first off, how did you get into all of this?
Well, I think I've always loved dogs. I think I came out of the womb loving dogs.
Yeah.
We had dogs, or a dog, and then eventually two dogs when I was growing up. But I got my own dog when I was, probably 10 years out of college. Maybe not that long, but I've had a series of dogs since then, mostly border collies, some mixes. And when I moved to Wenatchee about 10 years ago, I was just delighted to find that there was a dog training club here and that they offered agility lessons, because that was something that I had always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking my dog to agility, and he competed and did fairly well. Unfortunately, he passed away about a year ago. But I have two dogs in training right now, a border collie and a little tiny 12-pound mix who loves agility. And about 3 years ago, I guess, I started teaching beginning agility classes, and that's just a total joy for me.
Nice, nice. So when you moved there and took your dog to that was the first time you had done any training with dogs?
Aside from obedience, which I was
Okay.
pretty much a failure at.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think isn't that the common experience for many people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're like, how do we train this dog? I think a lot of times we think, gosh, you know what, my dog just doesn't listen. What has become abundantly clear through taking your class is they are listening, and they're listening so effectively, but my experience is that the owner is so inconsistent and so not clear with what we are intending for the dog to do. And the really big thing that I saw that I'll just never forget is, if you want your dog to begin to act in a specific manner, you consistently reward the desired behavior.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So many times dog owners are like pointing out the behavior they don't want, and therefore they're giving attention to the behavior they don't want, and kind of reinforcing it because they're getting so much attention around this thing they just did.
Well, and actually, what you're describing basically is what we use throughout all of our classes, which is choice-based training. So we allow the dog to choose the behavior, and then we reward only the behaviors that we want. And we never punish or scold for the behaviors we don't want. And the reason for that is if that scolding or making the dog feel bad actually damages their confidence. When we're training a dog, we do much better, and they do much better if their confidence gets built.
Yes.
And when they're rewarded for something, they'll do it again.
Yes.
And so it's this cycle of improvement that, especially once the dog begins to learn to offer behaviors, it's kind of awakening the creative part of their brain, training gets really fun.
Yes, and I'll share an example of that. So first of all, I started going to these agility classes with my dog Jack, and my daughter and her wife have gone with me and brought their little dog Trooper. And what's so cool is that everyone's a little bit timid at first, all the dogs, but then after a few weeks into it, they're like so excited to go. And they're realizing that, oh, I get lots of treats here. And so they start doing the desired behaviors on their own.
Yes.
I mean, that blew me away to see all these dogs like jumping up on the little stools by themselves, like they're warming up and like, hey, I know what to do here, jump, and they look for the treat. The pace at which they learn, it really astonished me. Mm. And that's like a common thing, I would assume.
It's pretty common.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, how long have you had Jack?
We've had Jack for 2 years. He was a little rescue dog from Spokane. Yeah.
So I love what I've seen in Jack. He was pretty timid in class at first, and he's warming up. You've built his confidence. So it's not a scary proposition for him anymore to meet other dogs or to meet other people. Mm-hmm. And his behavior doing agility now is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he really loves it.
He really likes it.
And he loves working for you.
Yeah.
So you're doing something really right.
Yeah. And it's just so satisfying too. And I think I expressed this one time to you too, that what's taking place is it's a real opportunity to build your relationship with your dog. I mean, you're really building it up because you're both learning together, and you're both dependent on each other. Like, let's make this thing happen. And at first they're like, well, what are you trying to make happen? And then it becomes clear to them. And so there's a super close bond that develops through this work. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you've realized that. I think a lot of people in their first or second class haven't really clicked into that yet. But for agility, as well as for many other dog sports, it's that connection that, number one, makes it a really special experience, but also allows the dog to rise to their highest capability. And I love watching that process.
Yeah. I also kind of feel like it's we're helping dogs communicate with us. And I know that they have their own way of communicating, but I feel like with this effort that we're both bringing to it, the dog and the owner, I feel like we're beginning to understand each other at a much deeper level. Mm-hmm. Like Jack can tell me things I feel like that he couldn't have, or I'm understanding him at a new level where I wouldn't have had that ability before because of this work. And I know that maybe sounds weird to people there, but it's learning that's going on. And I believe that there's like new neural pathways happening in the brains of both the dog and the owner. And so it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I see that happening not just in me and Jack, but in the other people there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just unique. This is it's like a proven methodology.
Yeah, it actually works.
Yes.
And it works so well. And I mean, everybody wins.
Yes.
And there's no negatives about it either. And it's interesting because with my current agility dog, she's now 4, so we've been doing classes for 3+ years, and she's competing at a moderate level, I should say, but she's really fast. She totally loves it. And I'm continuing to learn with her what she needs. One thing I realized recently is that she really needs me to connect with her visually a lot more than I was, because that gives her confidence. So for example, when she disappears into a tunnel, there's a disconnection between us for a second or two while she's in there. And if I don't catch her eye as she's exiting the tunnel, she most likely misses the next obstacle, even though I may be signaling it with my hand. But if I catch her eye, it's kind of like, oh, we're okay, and then she can go. And that has made a huge difference in our runs. Just, checking in with her, and it's just very brief. I'm also discovering that dogs have a very wide peripheral vision. We can see kind of out to about here, but dogs, because the eyes are on the side of their heads more than ours, they can see way back here. And so I don't have to be that close to her or even in front of her. I can be behind her, and still she can see me, and we're connected.
That's cool.
And so that also helps, because she's so fast, she's going to be running in front of me most of the time. And I need to be able to signal her, go to the tunnel, jump, whatever. I'm doing it verbally as well as with my hands, but my eyes being able to see where she is. Now that I recognize, her eyes being able to see where I am, since she's fast and she's in front of me. Now I recognize that I can signal her much more effectively, even without trying to race to get in front of her or even beside her.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh my gosh, it's just, the evolution of this learning is really fun.
Yes, it is. Now, some people might be thinking like, well, that all sounds good, but you don't know my dog. Right? My dog, tried it, doesn't work. So let's answer the age-old question. Actually, you know what? Let's take a break. Then we'll come back to the age-old question: can an old dog really learn new tricks? Okay?
All right.
Hey, stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here. Today we're talking with Pam Jenkins, and she runs classes over at the Wenatchee Kennel Club.
That's right.
And that's where I met her, and so glad I did. And we're talking about dogs, we're talking about handling dogs, we're talking about our relationships with dogs. And we're going to answer an old question. That question is, can an old dog learn new tricks? And Pam, what do you say?
Well, first of all, let me just say I don't consider myself a dog expert. I have a few years of training with this choice-based training approach. But my belief from what I've observed in my students is that old dogs can learn, and they love it.
Yes.
Just like kids and adults and teenagers, when we're encouraged, we do better. And so in a choice-based training approach, the dogs get encouraged to try new things and to be successful because they get rewarded for those things. So, I think from a scientific point of view, an older brain, whether it's a dog or a human being, may not be quite as snappy or flexible as when they or we were younger. But they're still able to learn, and they love it. It's and you hit on it earlier, the connection that's built between the handler and the dog is really key. Because for them, that connection is kind of what they're built for,
Yes.
Man and beast, when there's a bond there that forms that is really amazing, and that gets strengthened through the training process, through a positive training process.
Yes.
So whatever the handler is training the dog, it doesn't have to be agility. It can be obedience. It can be how to walk well on a leash. It can be any number of dog sports that are out there. Rally, which is sort of a competitive form of obedience. Or tracking is another thing. Some dogs just love using their noses to follow a track,
yes.
Somebody's footprints through a field, and they get well rewarded when they find the glove at the end of that track. So whatever it is, the dogs seem to thrive on completing something well.
Yeah, and I think I see evidence that old dogs can learn new tricks. You know, my daughter's dog Trooper, who goes there to classes, is 9 years old and hasn't ever done this before, and is totally kicking butt. I mean, Trooper just loves going there. He's all about it. He's paying attention. He's learning and demonstrating that learning. And so that's so encouraging.
Yeah, and with Trooper, it's so interesting. He was tentative the first few weeks, and what I've seen is he's just accelerated.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, give me more, I love this.
Yes. And, you know, we take this into our homes and do training and practice. And both Jack and Trooper, they see each other. In fact, they're together right now while I'm here. But we break out some training opportunities for them in our home. And I'm telling you, they just snap to it. They get so excited. It's like, oh, great, we're going to train, we're going to play. And Naomi even has a little tunnel for Trooper to go through.
Oh, great.
And you know, we teach them to, if we need a cone or something, we just grab a house plant and put it there in the middle of the room, or we'll just do whatever. But they really know what's going on, and they're ready and eager to do it. It's so
That's
cool.
so great.
Yeah,
I love hearing that.
Yeah. So, tell me just a little bit about the class, or not the classes, but tell people if they're thinking like, gosh, this sounds interesting. I might want to look into this. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, here locally, the Wenatchee Kennel Club, they have a facility located near Costco in East Wenatchee. And they offer a whole set of classes for dogs, including obedience, puppy classes, a variety of puppy classes, or beginner dog classes. We have 6 levels of agility. We have tracking during non-winter months. Rally, I had mentioned before. Scent work, which is a really interesting set of classes. I think there are 6 levels, maybe 7 of scent work. And the dogs learn how to find an object that has a particular scent in it. And so they learn how to use their noses and to figure out where a scent is coming from.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of class. And some dogs just excel at that. And so I have one dog enrolled in that. My former dog was advancing in scent work as well. And it's less strenuous for both the dog and the handler compared to agility. And it's intriguing because when you watch a dog following a scent in a room, and then they get closer, and the goal is for them to put their nose, basically, if there was a scent, let's say on the back of that glass, they would follow the scent basically up on top of the table, maybe even have to put their feet up here and then get their nose right there.
Oh, interesting.
And then that's the find. And it's intriguing.
Yeah.
Again, we reward when they find it, and gradually the hides become more and more difficult as the dog's skills increases. And I think they have 3 or 4 different scents. So the dog learns one, which is actually the most faint of at least to our noses, maybe to the dogs as well, and then they go with a little bit stronger. So the dog learns how to find where the scent is coming from and how to indicate to their handler, it's right here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
So the club, I think in total we have something like 35 classes offered every 2 months, different classes.
Oh, okay.
And the sessions are 6 weeks long. 7 weeks long, sometimes 6 if we have a holiday
or something, yeah.
And so...
And they're about an hour long?
They're 50 minutes long, and sign-up happens roughly 2 weeks before the session begins, and people can find that course offering and how to register for a class online on the Wenatchee Kennel Club website.
And I should also point out that These are small classes.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's never like it's chaos in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like 7 people in our class. So, and it's a big, they have an indoor space as well, so it's been great during the snow.
Mm-hmm.
We're indoor, it's warm, and it's a big space where the dogs can run around, and there's space for everyone to work. And then Pam kind of, she goes through the people and the dogs and gives very specific feedback. There's very specific tasks that they do. And I think I would say, like, even if someone's not interested in agility, but they just want some basic ways to communicate with the dog, like sit, stay, come, you can get that easily and quickly. I really believe that people after one session will see progress in their dog. It happens amazingly fast. These little guys are smart.
Yeah, they are.
So I encourage, if you ever thought about it, give her a ring or contact the Wenatchee Kennel Club, because it's a lot of fun. And that's the other thing. It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to go take my dog to train. It's like, oh, I get to. It's like super fun. And there's a lot of people who own dogs who have this story about them, like they can't learn, like it might be a Chihuahua or little dogs, little barky dogs, whatever. Do you think that this is applicable for all dogs? Can you bring any dog, and do you think that any dog can learn some of these basics?
Mostly I would say yes. Occasionally there are dogs who are, for whatever reason, something bad happened in their past, and they may be reactive in the presence of other dogs. And in that case, I don't think that a classroom setting is really the best place for that dog to learn. And so typically, if we find a dog is reactive to others, we recommend that they get some one-on-one training first to kind of undo that reactivity before they enter into a classroom situation. One of the club's philosophies is to make it a really safe, happy place to be for the dogs as well as for the handlers. And so a reactive dog can make other dogs feel unsafe. So if that's an issue, then we try to work it out with the handler so that they can get the specific kind of training that dog needs as a preliminary to being in a class.
Yes, yeah, that's a good insight. But in general, most dogs they're going to excel, I think, in that safe condition. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, we don't see dogs wanting to stay in the car in the parking lot.
I know.
Over and over I hear, as soon as they the handler will say, as soon as we drove into the parking lot, my dogs start going nuts in the car. Oh, we're here.
Yes, exactly. That's what Jack does.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Well, thanks for being on the show. A wealth of information, and if you're listening there and it's piqued your interest, look further into it. It can make a tremendous difference in your relationship with your dog and how confident your dog is as well. So thanks, Pam. Appreciate it. We got to get going, so it's time for you to get out there. Be a source of kindness. Be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.